Welcome to the Golden Hour, the podcast community where moms and moms-to-be hear stories from other mothers and top experts in the pregnancy and postpartum care field. You can visit goldenhour.fm for more information, resources, and all other episodes. You can also find us at goldenhour.fm on Instagram for comments and questions. Welcome to today's episode of The Golden Hour. I love it that this is how you know Venla and I are really good friends. We're already giggling and the episode hasn't even started. I am your host, Dr. O, and today I'm joined by my dear friend, Venla. Venla is an entrepreneur with a diverse background spanning multiple industries. She's the co-founder of several early-stage startups, a strength coach, leadership trainer, and a workshop facilitator. Currently, she's leading a major project focused on AI workshops, training, and supporting facilitators. And if that wasn't impressive enough, she also holds the title of Finnish Happiness Ambassador, which I didn't know. Fun fact for me. She's originally from a small village in northern Finland. Venla has spent 12 years living in Spain and Germany before returning home to Helsinki, where she now lives with her partner Atte, and their two children, Viola and Billy, that I can objectively say are freaking stinking cute. We spent some quality time with those kids over the years, and they're like, and I really do mean it. I've told people as an OB/GYN, I see a lot of kids, and a lot of the time I'm saying that they're cute to be nice, right? Because I have to. It's like, it's my job. It's like a dentist saying, oh yeah, you have great teeth. But your kids are objectively, they're cute. They're cute. They have like these big eyes and these sweet cheeks. So job well done, Venla. Of all your accomplishments, your cute kids are like, they're up there.
I think you think they're cute only because they have blonde hair and blue eyes, I would say the same thing if I saw your children, like curly dark hair and like a little bit like a darker skin tone. I'd be like, that's amazingly beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad the feelings are mutual, but they are, it's not the blondness. It's also just like the energy that they give off. They have cute energy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, Venla, you are joining us from Finland. So first and foremost, thank you for like kicking it with us in a different time zone. Fortunately, not too late there yet.
Yes, but I'm so excited to be here. I'm probably too excited.
You're too excited. No, I love a good like amped energy. And for all those who are listening, one of the reasons why Venla has joined us, and honestly, I was telling her this before we begin the pre-show, is Venla, you're my inspiration. You're my inspiration for a lot of things. But one of the many things that inspired this podcast was getting an understanding of postpartum care abroad. And that was one of my first realizations of, despite my best intentions and despite the fact that the healthcare system I work in does a lot to support like pregnant persons and their families. I think it was our first trip. Yeah, you were, oh my gosh, our first trip to Berlin. I think you were pregnant with Viola at the time, if I remember correctly.
Because I think you were at the baby shower.
I was at the baby shower. Yes, I was at the baby shower. I remember fun story. Like within minutes of meeting you and Atte, you're like, "Hey, do you want to go to the spa and get naked together?" And I was like, "Sounds great." That's how I knew we were fast friends. But yes, I was there at the baby shower, and we, I remember chatting to you about your pregnancy experience abroad, and then fast forward coming back for your 40th birthday. And at that time, you now had two kids because Billy was there. Yes, Billy had arrived, and talking to you about your postpartum experience. And so it's those conversations with you, some of your friends who were at those various parties who were just patient with me and let me ask thousands of questions as I tend to do, that made me first realize, US, it's a grand country, quote unquote, for those who are listening, but there's a lot of things that we're lacking. And one of those is postpartum care. So let alone pregnancy care. So let's start there.
Yes.
Like what was your experience with your first pregnancy with Viola? What was your experience with even from the start from conception through your pregnancy? And when I say conception, well, Atte came to the room. Atte came to the room. The candles were lit. He was playing a little Usher. And then, maybe we skip conception.
Let's get to the point where I realized I was pregnant.
Yes, how about there?
So maybe like generally I would say that I'm probably one of the luckiest people in the world because I got to experience like the pregnancies and the first years of my children in Germany or in Berlin.
Mhm.
I'm don't say Germany,
Mhm.
but Berlin,
Mhm.
because I think you probably have the best pre and postpartum care there in the world. It's better than even in Finland.
Yeah.
So I think throughout the whole first pregnancy, I got to see my doctor several times. So my gynecologist, I had my own.
Mhm.
Um, I got as many scans as I wanted. I did pay a little bit for them, but like 50 euros or something. So like not really
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
I got all the tests done for free to check if there were any issues during the pregnancy.
Mhm.
Already towards the end of the pregnancy, I was able to find a midwife. So you get a midwife who can support you a little bit before the pregnancy, before the
Mhm.
birth, but also then after the
Mhm.
birth, like, and they come to your home. But that's the
Mhm.
postpartum part. So the pregnancy one was really nice. It felt really supported. Everything there makes things easy for you, right? So being
Yeah.
able to go to the doctor um, and ask them any questions you want, not having to care about the medical bills at that stage either. Then deciding where and how you want to give birth. And the giving birth part is also, I don't know how much you want to go into that already, but
Yeah.
I think the pre-partum care is really good. But
Mhm.
I feel like the biggest differences probably will be like during the birth, what happens, and
Mm.
then after the birth,
Yeah.
compared to most other countries in the world.
Yeah. Well, taking a couple steps back, you even said that you thought that your prenatal care in and your care in total in Germany was even better compared to Finland.
Yeah.
What makes you make those comparison points? What was better in Germany
I
specifically?
think, well, the fact that you get your own dedicated midwife,
Mhm.
we don't get that in Finland.
Mhm.
Um, and during the birth as well, you get so much support from their hospitals as well. But I
Yeah.
don't think, like, if I think back, I think the biggest difference is probably between Germany and Finland would be around the midwife, having your own dedicated midwife. And I think that
Mhm.
is quite special in this world that you can have that
Yeah.
for free. For
Yeah,
free,
for free,
if I
exactly.
need to mention that.
Yeah, exactly, like, no price tag needed, like, for free. Yeah, I mean, in the US, we have, insurance, and insurance covers a certain proportion of your
Yeah,
prenatal and postpartum care. It's called, like, the global package.
yeah,
And my the any further details than that, like, stop there for me because 'cause I'm an OB and not an insurance provider, but that being said, you'll hear from people, you'll hear from
yeah,
friends, like, even with insurance coverage, you still end up with, like, a large bill at the end. Would
yeah,
you say that besides paying maybe 50 euro here or there for extra ultrasounds, that you wanted, that, like,
yeah.
literally there wasn't a bill at the end of your pregnancy?
So the day we left the hospital, I don't know if you want to talk about the prenatal stuff, but like I think the biggest shocker, I think, for a lot of Americans is that like
Yeah,
the actual giving birth part in the hospital
yeah,
is,
yeah,
and I had to, with both pregnancies, I had to have a C-section, so I had to stay there for
yeah,
3 nights.
yeah,
And we wanted a separate family room. So that meant that we had to pay. Otherwise, it would have been
okay,
for free. I
yeah.
think we paid, don't quote me on this, but
Yeah.
roughly altogether 200 euros.
Yeah.
So I would say that
It's
the
crazy.
final price tag of my pregnancies in Germany or in Berlin
Yeah.
is about maybe 300 euros, 400 euros in total.
Yeah. That's crazy because in the context of, yeah, don't quote me, but in the US can be anywhere from like thousands to tens of thousands, depending.
Yeah.
And if you have a quote unquote more complicated delivery, so standard vaginal delivery is one cost, but a C-section technically is more expensive. And so you had a C-section and your total cost was still at that that
Yeah,
low
and
amount.
only because I wanted a family room. So if I
Yeah,
had
only because
had
you wanted
just
the upgrade.
actually, yeah, I wanted an
Yeah.
upgrade. I wanted a
Yeah.
fancier experience.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
want to share
That's
the room with
crazy.
random people. So like I
Yeah.
had the luxury package. Um, and I think, yeah, that's the thing. Like it's just a few hundred euros for that. And if it wasn't for that kind of extra upgrade, I think you
Yeah.
wouldn't have paid anything. Because even the
Yeah.
extra scans were like something I wanted extra. And that's pretty much the same in Finland. I don't think there's a
Mhm.
huge difference between that. I think the biggest changes then, and that's why I was saying I feel like German system was even better than the Finnish system, was that
Yeah.
when you get your own dedicated midwife before the birth, you will have a couple of sessions with them so that kind of you get to know them a little bit and they help you prepare for the birth. But the main kind of like benefit of that comes right after the birth, right? When the midwife actually
Mm.
comes to your place.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that like,
No, that was when you told me that. I think when I heard about that was you guys are all hearing me remembering like my special my special moments with Venla, because even though we live so far apart, we've somehow figured out ways to see each other at various points. And so I still remember when you guys met us in Istanbul before our
yes,
wedding, because you're going to be too pregnant with Vili to go to our wedding. So we've
yeah.
met you and Ate and Viola in Istanbul. And we were like chatting about your postpartum experience. And I remember you mentioning like, oh yeah, this midwife came to my house like every week. And I was like, excuse my language, but what the F? Like, what is that? That's impossible. And and it was not at cost. Like that was still part of like the €0.
Yes.
But yeah, let's talk about because we're going to do a deep dive about your
Yeah.
both postpartum experiences. But before we even get there, I think you alluded to your like labor experience. Do you
Oh,
want to tell
yeah.
us more about did you go into labor on your own? Were you induced?
Oh, the labor stories.
Yes, yes. My favorite part.
Well, I haven't practiced mine in so long.
Yeah.
So with Viola, so with my first one, the labor was actually induced. I think it was a week 40 already, so it was already full term. But because of all these scans that I had,
Yeah.
they were doing so much of like this scanning that they figured that there wasn't enough amniotic fluid, like not enough in the sense that they thought it was a little bit too little for the baby's well-being. So they decided in the hospital that so I went there for like a check, and they said, okay, maybe it's better to induce the labor so that, to get things going.
Yeah.
And I always say that I think I had like 5 births in 3 days, because I feel like I experienced everything in those 3 days.
Yeah.
As they were really committed to helping me to have a natural birth.
Yeah.
So we did all kinds of like acupuncture, homeopathic treatments, and all the different kinds of ways of trying to induce, and then all these kind of like medical ways of trying to induce the labor.
Yeah.
And like after, I think 2 full days, like 48 hours, and I hadn't slept at all because I was getting these contractions every now and then,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it wasn't just going anywhere. Like
Yeah.
they were like small contractions. The body was trying to get started,
Yeah.
but it was just not ready. So
Yeah.
after those 48 hours, they were like, yeah, maybe it's time that we, I think then they had to break what do you say? They break the
They
water?
break the
Or they're like,
bag. Yeah. Break the bag of water. Yeah.
and they're like, if this doesn't work, then nothing else will work except for a C-section.
Mm.
And it didn't work.
Yeah.
And then even I had an epidural. I feel like I got everything. They gave me
Yeah.
like
You
the laughing
tried
gas,
everything.
epidural, all the kind of like hippie treatments. I was in the
Yeah.
bath. I was on the bed. I had a massage. I didn't have a massage. I feel like I was doing all this kind of stuff.
You dabbled. You
And for
dabbled in
free.
everything. And all for free, you guys.
All for free. Just saying that, probably like I'm gonna say that all the time, probably in this interview. And then so in the end, we end up having like a C-section. It wasn't an emergency one. It was just like a scheduled one.
Yeah.
I remember going, and I was just so happy. I was like, finally, this ends. Like, I was like, this is getting to be a little bit too much. Like, I hadn't slept for like 2 nights at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember going to this, like, they were taking me into the room, and I was probably really high from the laughing gas and everything they'd given me. And I think one of the nurses was from Argentina, and I speak some Spanish. I remember talking to him in Spanish, going like, "Oh, qué guay, aquí estoy." And then like the doctor was German, and I was like, "Hello, wie geht's dir?" And I was like, after not sleeping for like 48 hours, I'm here like speaking 4 different languages and being like super excited about.
Yeah. I love it. You're coming into your C-section like high and happy.
I was like,
that's ideal.
I'm ready. Take her out.
Yeah.
I feel like I've done everything I can.
I was gonna say, because it sounds like if you couldn't, not to make light of the like sheer exhaustion physically and mentally, emotionally you'd gone through after 2 days, but if there was a menu of like labor options, you had like appetizers, you had the main dish, you had like the dessert. Like you literally tried everything on that.
I tried everything. I mean, I also like, how many centimeters are you supposed to be open? Is it like 10?
Yeah, 10 to have the baby.
Yeah. So I think I was stuck between like 4 and 5. So it was like a little bit, it was kind of like starting, but not really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the C-section went really well. And I think what was really interesting after the C-section was that, so as soon as Viola was born or taken out of me, and they started like sewing me back me back up. They gave Viola to Atte for some skin-to-skin time.
Oh,
But they,
yeah.
like, her first bonding experience was actually with the father, like this
Yeah.
skin-to-skin bonding. And I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
So that went really well. And I
Yeah.
recovered quite quickly. And I think that was, like, I think all in all, a very good experience, although it was a bit crazy. Like, I think we waited a little bit too long with the decision of having the C-section in the end. So I do think in the end it was 3 nights. I have a feeling that I didn't sleep for 3 nights. It was very
Yeah.
long anyway.
It was long.
So anyway,
Yeah.
that was the first one. The second one was quite similar in a sense that the doctors were like, oh, there isn't enough amniotic fluid, so maybe it's better for the baby to be born a bit earlier. But at that point, I was 38 weeks pregnant. So I was like, I'm not doing this inducing the labor again because it didn't work when I was 40 weeks pregnant. So I'm sure as hell it's not going to work when I'm 38 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
So then I had a scheduled C-section for Billy, which also went well, but it was much longer, much more painful than what it was with Viola. And I didn't know that. And also the recovery was much more painful because I didn't realize that it's like after the first one, when the body, like, and the uterus starts like shrinking, you get all these kind of post contractions.
Yeah.
But they weren't that bad with the first one. With the second one, man, I was like, it's like giving birth.
Yeah.
With the post contractions. So I was like, I should have just tried to give the actual natural birth, because then you get like the second C-section pain and the recovery mess of that, and then also the contractions.
Yeah.
It was really, but anyway.
Yeah.
And it went also really well.
Yeah. Yeah. Besides those post delivery contractions, there's a couple of questions I want to ask because your stories that you're telling are rich, and I want to kind of elaborate more if we can. Going back to your first delivery with Viola, it seemed like by the time the team was rolling you in to do the C-section, you're speaking multiple languages, you're exhausted, you're kind of ready for it. You know, in retrospect, as you kind of either retold your labor story to friends or reflected on it on your own, like did you regrets or remorse about your labor experience? Was a C-section something that you were open to if it needed to happen, or were you someone who was like, absolutely not, I want to push it for 3 days because like I really want to avoid this at all costs? What was it for you? Like what mental space were you in?
Well, generally I tend not to have any regrets in life as a philosophy.
Yeah.
I feel like
I like that.
things happen the way they happen, you know, for different reasons. And I think just to keeping always an open mind helps. So also with this, I wasn't like keen on like doing things one way or another. Of course, like giving a natural birth without any medication would have been nice. But I think the one advice I got when I was prepared for my first birth was like, keep your options open.
Yeah.
Don't rule anything out.
Yeah.
So I don't regret anything. I don't regret any of the decisions. I think at the time either, it didn't really feel like very traumatizing event. Even though it was kind of long and painful. But at the same time, I think the nurses and everyone, all the hospital staff was so nice. My partner was there with me all the time. Like I didn't really feel, and I even had a doula. Oh, I should have mentioned that. Doula.
Oh yeah, you had a doula too. Yeah.
But that was the only reason I had it, was because my German, we never got to that level of like super fluency. So that I wanted someone there in the room with me who'd be able to like communicate with the staff as well, in case I was kind of like just wanting to focus on the actual delivery. But that's not a very typical thing to have in Germany. But I should mention her, as she was also really lovely and helpful. I think also made the experience even nicer, as I had my doula and had my partner and really lovely staff, and didn't have to worry about anything. I knew I was in good hands.
Yeah. And you allude to the ideal kind of like birthing team, which is, it's not only the birther, it's their support person or their partner. It's a doula if they bring that person on, and it's like the amazing nurses, the anesthesiologist, the OB doctor, the midwife, right? There's a whole force of people. You mentioned that in Germany, doulas aren't that common. You specifically sought out your doula maybe just to make sure there wasn't like a language barrier when you're like in the throes of a contraction. You're like, which language am I going to speak right now? Like you accidentally say something in Spanish. And so it sounds like the doula you sought out wasn't necessarily for labor support, but it was just labor support and kind of a role as like a translator. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was like to take away the stress coming from the fact that I was giving birth in a country where I don't speak the language fluently,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
like 100% fluently. Like I'd say my German is
Yeah.
pretty good, but it's still like, medical terms and things like that.
Yeah.
It can get confusing. And in
Yeah.
Germany, well, like, maybe I should always talk about Berlin, just maybe for a little background. Like Germany is a little bit similar to the US in a sense that it's divided in these different states,
Mhm.
actually. So
Yeah.
Berlin, the Brandenburg state where I was living in, has a very different system from, let's say, south of Germany, like where München is or
Ah.
Munich is. So when I talk about Germany, I should actually just talk about Berlin, because at
Yeah.
least that's what I know how things work, but
Yeah.
they might be a little bit different, or they are different than when you go to different parts of Germany. So just a little
Yeah.
background.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. Yeah, obviously not obviously, but as an American, we tend to be myopic. We're like, well, there's the US of A and we got our United States,
Yeah,
but I forget that other countries are divided
yeah,
in that way. When you
yes,
talk to your girlfriends who are German, who've grown up there or had their children there,
yeah.
and talk to them about their birth experiences, is there a reason that they give why doulas aren't as common? Is doula support a newer thing in Germany? What is your sense from living there so long?
Well, I think it's first for the privileged ones who can afford it.
Mm, yeah,
If imagine
'cause that was an
everyone's.
extra cost. That wasn't part of
Yes,
your,
it's
like, full
completely a
package.
private thing that you
Yeah.
like, it's not. And also because they have the midwife service. So in a way, like,
Mhm.
why would I have additional doula if I have a
Mhm.
midwife who's there for me before and after the birth, and then
Mhm.
during the birth, you'll have, like, hospital staff there for you. So I think,
Mhm.
and I even took, like, a hypnobirthing course, I think, as well before my first pregnancy. I feel like I did everything. I tried everything.
You really did. You really did. You
Um
dabbled in it all. I love it.
And I think a lot of my German friends were actually quite keen on having these. They were like these home birth centers. So they
Mhm.
were not like hospitals, but like these places where you can go and give home birth, but it's not your
Mhm.
home, but it's more like a homey vibe and
Yeah.
like actual beds and stuff. So that was quite common there. I was very keen on going to a hospital because I was like, if there's any complications, like you would have
Yeah.
anyway needed to go to hospital. So I kind of wanted to make
Yeah.
it as the least stressful for me as possible. So thus the hospital and thus the
Yeah.
doula. But I think, yeah, most of my friends have had really great experiences there
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
having to pay for anything additional or extra.
Just out of curiosity, what if you can remember, I know it's been several years because Viola is now 6.5. And I love that's how you know you have a 6.5-year-old is because like for most of us, you're 6 or you're 7, right? Like as an adult, like I am not 38 and like a quarter, right? But like I remember that's the age where you're just like, no, I am 6.5. I am
Yeah.
7.5. Like that, she earned that half. Anyway,
Yes.
so I know it's been a couple of years, but do you have a recollection of how much it costs to have your private doula?
Well, my partner paid for it. It's the
Yeah.
least he can do.
Yeah, Ate.
I had to do the goddamn everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
um, maybe it was like 2,000 euros.
Just a one-time fee.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean,
But
again,
there was like a
I
set
don't have
amount
the
of like, yeah.
yeah, and the number of sessions they're gonna do with you. Yeah, I don't have
Mm,
that number on top of my head, but I think for those who are listening and are either planning on being pregnant or currently pregnant and thinking about doula support, which I will endorse time and time again.
yeah.
And the usage of doulas in the US is becoming more and more common. And doulas
Mm,
not only just for like labor support, but there's postpartum
yeah.
doulas. There's actually doulas for fertility care, right? There's basically
Mm,
doulas are just like an active way to support you at any point in your life. But that price point I think is different. And so I think it's helpful. I think so much of this episode is going to be a comparison of like
yeah.
Europe and the US, and so it's nice to kind of understand that even though you recognize the privilege of seeking out dual support, even $2,000 or €2,000 alone, for me at least, from what I recall, is less expensive than what it is here in the US. Um,
Yeah.
and also, I think as doula support becomes more and more popular and better understood, I think there are certain insurance companies that are going to start covering doula support, which is
Hopefully.
great. And especially for those who are underprivileged and underinsured, one of our bigger healthcare systems for those who have less means. called Medicare is actually starting to cover doula support, which is great.
Mm.
So a plug for the US that we're far behind from many, many things, but at least we've got that going for us right now.
And
Going
to be
back to
honest,
this,
so just to actually add, my doula was
yeah.
American.
Oh, cool.
She was
Yeah.
American who spoke
Yeah,
fluent
yeah.
German.
Yeah, yeah.
And I do think, like, for me, as I've understood, this whole doula culture comes from the
Yeah.
US, at least to
Yeah.
Europe. Like, kind of, it seems to be much more common in the US.
Yeah.
But I think it was
Yeah.
really like, it was very helpful. I can definitely, totally recommend.
And I wonder, I don't think you and I are the two to answer this question, but part of my thinking as we discussed it is that I wonder if doula culture is more popular in the US because we don't necessarily have built in all the support that people
Yeah.
naturally feel abroad. There are also issues with like systemic racism and poor
Yeah.
outcomes for certain groups that don't feel like they are supported or heard in rooms. And so sometimes dual support can make people feel like there's an extra advocate in the room. So
Yeah.
I bet it's not a simple answer to my own rhetorical question, right? There's probably multiple reasons why it's more common, but it's cool to
Yeah.
hear that wave is being brought abroad.
Yeah.
Going back to this magical midwife that does home calls. So it sounds like you had your primary OB doctor,
Yeah.
maybe. So like that's the person you saw for your scans and your visits. But then in addition, you had a midwife assigned kind of towards the end. And was that midwife someone that was part of your doctor's group? Like they were technically a team? Or it was like a
Yeah.
separate person? Oh, cool.
Yeah. So this, like,
Yeah.
I was kind of like, I think I find it interesting to compare the Finnish and the German healthcare system, because I don't think it doesn't matter where you go in the world, people always complain about the healthcare systems, and I don't
Yeah.
know if a perfect one even exists.
That's fair.
In Germany, the healthcare system is based on this idea that you have the freedom to choose. So you have the freedom to
Mm,
choose your doctor, you have the freedom to choose your hospital, you have the freedom to choose your midwife and everything. And in Finland, everything is based on this idea like you have the freedom to choose, but we will pre-assign everything for you. And then you can
yeah.
change if you want. And in Germany, or in Berlin again, it's more like, well, you can choose, but then you also have to do it yourself. So you have to find
Yeah.
your own doctor, and you always also have to find your own midwife. The midwives are usually like working as private sort of contractors, or like, they're not part of the hospital.
Yeah.
They're like working as, kind of freelancers. I don't know what the
Hmm.
right terminology would be, but they're not
Yeah.
like associated with a certain hospital or with particular doctors either. But just that's their profession. So you book them
Yeah.
through different platform. The city offers you a list of them, and you can just start calling them and try to find one that is available.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, like the only downside of it all in Germany,
Yeah.
was that
Yeah.
it was a bit stressful to find the kind of colleges that had enough capacity to take more patients,
Yeah.
and a midwife. So basically, as soon as women find out they're pregnant, they start looking for a midwife
Yeah.
because it's so difficult
Interesting.
to find one. But
Yeah.
I mean, as said, there's always a downside. Not everything
Yeah.
is perfect there either.
Exactly.
So so they're kind of like private. Like, I mean, there are like, educated medical professionals.
Yeah, but they have their own the way I would
Yeah.
describe it is like they have their own like practice where
Yes.
for the example, the comparison I was making and the reason why I asked is that in my medical group, we have like a large OBGYN division and doctors and midwives, we all work together. So in that group I work
Yeah.
in, there's like almost 30 of us and there's about like 20 of us doctors and about 10 midwives and like we're a team. So if a patient sees me but knows that she wants one of the midwives to do her delivery, that's great because the midwife on my team will do her delivery. She's not my patient doesn't have to seek out and like find another midwife in another group.
Yeah.
So that's helpful to know that you basically you chose two clinicians. You chose your gynecologist and you chose the midwife you want to take care of for you in your pregnancy.
But
And
something
they
I
both,
couldn't choose was
yeah,
the actual doctor, everything that happened at the hospital. So the
yeah,
midwife that I chose wasn't there for the
mm,
birth, which I find
mm,
kind of crazy, because in Finland the only thing that midwives do is there to assist with the labor.
yeah, yeah,
But in Germany, the midwife is actually, you have the one that is there for you before and after that you choose. And then you have a midwife who just happens to work in the hospital during that shift and then is helping
yeah,
I guess that's then the OP-GYN. I don't know
yeah, yeah,
how this
yeah,
terminology goes, but yeah. So it's kind of strange. There was like some things you can choose, but then of course you can choose when you give birth and who happens to be on
on
a
call that
duty then
day.
on call.
Yeah, yeah, similar. If you're in our group, you might see me for most of your visits or see one of our midwives for most of the visits, but generally speaking, we're not the ones delivering you because it's whoever's
Yeah.
on shift at that like hour your
Yes.
baby wants to be born.
Yes.
But then you still have, your follow-up appointments before and after with your chosen people.
Yes.
That makes sense. And so it sounds like your recovery with Viola, even though it was a long labor, which was exhausting physically, felt sounds like your recovery was relatively fine. How did the midwife play into your recovery? What did it look like to have your own personal midwife visit you and care for you postpartum?
Well, I think just in general, it's amazing. You don't need to leave your home when you're still
Yeah.
like in this mess. I was a mess. I don't know about like others,
Yeah.
but I was a mess. Like not sleeping for 3 nights, then having this newborn, and then not sleeping because then you have the newborn, but then still your hormones, and somehow you're able to function somehow still.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like it really was a huge help especially in the first week or two when the midwife came to us instead of us having
Yeah.
to go anywhere. I would say probably like it would have been a perfect experience if she'd spoken English,
Yeah.
because
That's
then I
fair.
think she only spoke German. So I think for a German person, probably like an excellent experience. For
Yeah.
me, like a really good experience. But then I
Yeah.
was also really tired, and then I was like half the things she was saying in German, I was like, and probably wasn't that important. She seems cool about it, so I think this is
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
But she was
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
showing like how do how clean the baby's I don't know, different parts. Or
Yeah. Yeah.
how
Yeah.
do you
Like
give
how
it a
you clean the
bath
bum.
and
Yeah.
yeah. And how can you
Yeah.
like do the breastfeeding? Like that was surprisingly difficult, this whole
Mm-hmm.
breastfeeding thing. Like I had no idea it can be so difficult. And the thing
Yeah.
is I have very now okay, this part you can cut out if you want, but I have like really big breasts, but then like really small nipples. And it's a
Yeah.
really horrible combination for the baby.
Yeah.
The baby's like
Yeah. What do I do
trying
with
to like
this?
latch, just like
Yeah.
I can't get
Yeah.
anything out of it.
Yeah.
So for instance, like for things like with things like that, it was really, really nice that she came there because it was in my own home, on my own
Yeah.
sofa, and then someone's holding
Yeah.
my hand, trying to show me like how to get the breastfeeding right, or like
Yeah.
gave me all these tips of like what can I put there, because I started getting all these like really irritated
Irritations.
nipple areas because it was getting
Yeah.
so it was very intense. So that was really like I have to say it was really
Yeah. No, I mean, but you're right. I've had many, many conversations so far in this podcast, let alone the conversations I've had outside of this podcast, and that postpartum is when you are in like the thick of controlled chaos, and that you are
yeah
physically changing, you're emotionally changing, your hormones are changing. You, as you've defined yourself and your like identity as a person has changed, right? Then amidst all that, you have this newborn who's just like, help me latch, clean my
yes
butt, like constant.
yeah
And you're just like, where am I in this whirlwind?
yeah
And having someone to guide you through it, I think for me as an OB, I see it time and time again where I have these limited windows into people's lives where I see them usually within the first 2, 3 weeks postpartum for a visit. That's only 20 minutes. And then I see them 6 weeks postpartum for their final visit. That's only 20 minutes. And I'm like,
yeah
okay, boobs feel fine. You're pooping fine. You're peeing fine. Breastfeeding's going
yeah
okay. All right. Like your mood's okay. All right. Technically, you're
yeah
good to go. But like really what I want to do is what your midwife has done. And what I really wish all women or birthers could have is that like one-to-one care where again, in my capacity, I can't do that. And I get it.
mm,
But I think that people deserve having those visits at home with someone who can literally like say, yeah, this is your boob. This is your body. This is how your baby's going to latch to your boob. Oh yeah, like you never changed a diaper before. Gotcha. I can show you how to do that.
yeah
Your partner doesn't know how to like what to do while like when you're taking a nap. Like I'll teach him like how to clean the bottles and do a bottle feed while you're sleeping, right? Like there's so many ways to interact with a family that is so crucial actually at their home. That's
yeah
different from like, here's a list of resources, here's some books. Good luck. We'll see you later.
Yeah. And especially because
Yeah.
when you have your first child, like you have no idea what to expect and you have no idea what's normal. So it's almost
Mhm.
like being a teenager where you're just wanting to ask all these questions. Is this normal? Is this normal? Is this normal?
Yeah.
So it's the same
Yeah.
as a kind of a new parent. You're like, my baby cries every night from 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. Is this normal?
Yeah.
Or like
Yeah.
they only pooped yesterday, not today. Is this normal? Like you have all these questions, and just in the like first couple of weeks, just having someone who comes there every now and then who can answer those questions And when the answer is 99% of the time, it's like, yes, that's normal. Like pretty much
Yeah.
everything is normal. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the reassurance you deserve. I always say this,
yeah,
that like 90% of my job is providing reassurance. And that's my favorite part of
yes,
my job. It's like my
yeah,
favorite part of my job is to make you feel safe and make you
yeah.
feel seen. And so this midwife, how often did she come to your house? You said in the first 2 weeks
So I
she
think
came
the
by?
whole kind of support was available for 2 months, but it started
Uh-huh.
from like, I think she came in the first 3 days after birth, after I got
Yeah.
home from the hospital. Then she
Yeah.
came like every 4 days. Then she came once a week. Then she came every 2 weeks. So it was kind of like, I can't remember exactly, but yeah. So it
Yeah.
was kind of like a longer time that she was available.
Yeah.
And it was much more intense at the beginning and then kind of faded out towards the end. And I was also
Yeah.
towards the end, I was like, yeah, no, no need to come anymore. Thank you
Yeah.
so
I'm
much.
good.
It was a pleasure, but now I'm fine.
Yeah. So I'd like to take a moment to tell you this is my passion project based on years of experience as an OB/GYN doctor. I aim to empower moms and moms-to-be and those in the pregnancy and postpartum care space. If you appreciate what I do, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share with your friends so we can reach more people like you. You can visit goldenhour.fm for more information, resources, and all other episodes. If you have any requests, suggestions, or questions for future episodes, please email me at hello@goldenhour.fm or leave us a comment at goldenhour.fm on Instagram. At any point did she, and I understand that there was like a bit of a language barrier, but at any point, part of her assessment, besides like giving you practical tips and helping you with lactation, did she check in with your mood at all? Was that a part
Yeah.
of her visits?
Yeah, I would say like a typical midwife does that. I've also heard
Mm-hmm.
from of experiences where they haven't been so supportive and they've been a little bit
Mm,
like, and I think that's difficult because then you have
mm-hmm.
someone coming in your home and you're already maybe struggling. So if that
Yeah,
person doesn't have the kind of social skills and the understanding of how to communicate with a new mother, it might be difficult.
yeah,
Mine was good.
yeah,
And yes, it was part of the routine was, yeah, that she would also check in with me. And, I sometimes cried in front of her for something that was like
yeah,
just from the exhaustion of everything. And also
yeah,
the problems with the breastfeeding and everything. So it was really important that she was there just to reassure me. It's like, it's fine.
yeah,
That's also fine. This will pass. And then giving
yeah,
tips, yeah, how we can better divide stuff with my partner. And
yeah.
so, yeah, for sure. I think it's kind of hard to compare because I don't even know what it would be like without one,
Yeah, yeah.
you
Well,
know?
talk to like the millions of moms in the US, they'll tell you it's really effing hard.
Yeah.
No, and I think jokes aside, I think for me, I recognize I have the honor of caring for, and some of the people that I am closest to in my friendships are people who are people of privilege, and they're the first people to acknowledge that, where
Mm.
kind of what we're talking about, which was built into your healthcare system, which is having these midwives do home visits, is what people get when they hire a postpartum doula or hire a night nurse, right?
Yeah.
But that is a huge cost. I think I was
Yeah.
talking to a friend recently who quoted like a night nurse at like $50,000 for 3. Like that's a lot of money to me.
But for how
Yeah, yeah.
long? For like,
For though $50,000, I think for like I think it's like for a 3-month period of
yeah.
time, but like that's a lot of money, I think, and I might actually be undervaluing it. It might be more than that, but that's
Yeah.
something that only people of privilege can access.
Of
And so I
course.
think when I have conversations like this and listen to what other countries are doing, it's like how do we bring America to a place where they respect pregnancy and postpartum and maternal health enough to invest in it, right? Where our healthcare system shouldn't be one where we cover, your 2 postpartum visits in person only. And yeah, like they'll cover mental health support if you need it. But where do we create a system where it is a known entity that, yeah, everyone's gonna have a baby and everyone, regardless of like your socioeconomic status, will get
Mm.
those home visits. Like I think
Yeah.
conversations like this, when you first told me about this like 2+ years ago, it's like I was pissed. I was like, "What the F?" Like,
Yeah.
I'm angry, but conversations like this make me actually now more hopeful in that, no, there's a way to channel this, to think about what can we do? How can we learn from other countries? Because I wonder when I asked you about the mood support, because part of me wonders, everyone's postpartum experience is different, and some women
Mm.
will get postpartum anxiety and depression and
Yeah.
and not necessarily know that they're at risk for it. It can just happen. But I
Yeah.
wonder if there's lower rates, like, if I have time one day to actually do a study of, like, there are lower rates of postpartum depression and anxiety in places like Berlin, or places like Finland, which we'll get to, where there's way more maternal postpartum support and parental support, because I do think it's
Yeah.
that time is so crucial. Go
I
ahead.
would I would assume so, you
Yeah.
know? If you feel like you at least get some support from this state, in addition just to the support you might get, hopefully get from your partner, I'm sure
Yeah.
that helps so much because
Yeah.
the whole recovery and like dealing with all these different feelings and learning how to be a parent, like, and not really get any support, like, would feel quite exhausting and lonely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have to say that, like, this midwife coming to your home, I think it is like almost like it's really, really good. In Finland, we don't have that same system. Like, we don't have midwives
Mm.
coming to your place, but we have like really good postpartum care in a sense that you get to see some kind of a nurse or midwife regularly after birth, and it's all for
Mhm.
free.
Mhm.
They kind of put in the dates for you, and they send you kind of like, well, can you come next week Wednesday? And then after that, one week afterwards, and there's like, because I
Yeah.
remember when I went to see, 'cause I don't know what it's called in English, but there's like it's like it's like a little it's not a hospital, but it's like place where you go where the families go who have underage children, and they do the
Oh, yeah.
health checkups. So it's kind of like, I
Yeah.
don't know,
Yeah. Like
this
a
kind of a,
pediatric office? Like, when you see
yeah,
pediatrician, like the kid doctor?
but it's not pediatricians there. It's like
Oh,
nurses.
okay.
It's
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
midwives. It's kind of like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
midwife center, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically, you go there regularly. And I remember when I went there, because my son is 2, so we went there last autumn when we moved to Finland to do his
Yeah.
2-year checkup. And
Yeah.
I was like astonished because they had reserved like 1 hour and 15 minutes for us. And there I really felt I was like, it was like a family therapy session. I could really talk
Yeah.
about everything that was going on. I was like,
Yeah.
is this normal? Like, he still wants to drink milk from the bottle. I don't understand. This is what the
Yeah.
nighttime looks like.
Yeah.
And I was like, there was so much time booked for that. And I was like,
Venla.
and all of my friends in Finland also felt that this system was really supportive and nice. So I'm just saying that it doesn't have to be so that a midwife comes to you. It can
Yeah.
also be that you go to the midwife or whatever is the support you get. But if you can get
Yeah.
that for free, and so that it's
Yeah.
pre-organized for you, so you don't have to think about booking something or think like, where do I go?
Mhm.
We get like, okay, this is all, we thought this through for you. The only thing you need to
Yeah.
do is show up
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
openly share your struggles. I think that's the amazing thing.
Yeah. That gave me chills. Like, openly share your struggles. Creating space. No, it's like all about
Yeah.
holding space and creating space. I think, like, the way that you can honor someone through, like, the biggest transitions of their lives,
Yeah.
AKA bringing children into the world and rearing them, like, even at age 2, like, you release your second, but you still have vast
Yeah.
amounts of questions.
Yeah, 'cause I
It's
forgot
creating space.
everything.
Hey, on everything. You're like,
I was like,
"I
I
blocked
had
it
a
out."
memory. That was 4
My
years
theory is
ago.
this. My theory is this. I think that there's, like, a natural amnesia that happens after you have your
I
kid,
think,
or you wouldn't
yeah,
have the
right.
next kid. So your body just
Right?
helps you black it out so you can be
Huh,
like, "Oh, this was fun. We should do this again
exactly.
that day. Sign me up." Anyway, but in all seriousness, I do think about whether it's like home visits are nice, and it is a wonderful luxury that we may or may not be able to work to, but just creating time, because you just said
Yeah.
that you had a visit that was an hour and 50 minutes. My
Yeah.
longest visit I have on my schedule is 30 minutes, and that's for like a brand new patient. Otherwise, once you're established with me,
Yeah.
it's 10 minutes if you're pregnant, 10
Yeah.
minutes only if you're
Yeah.
pregnant, 20 minutes if you're postpartum. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine how much more would come into a conversation if,
Yeah.
rather than me being like, "Okay, well, my next 20 patients are rating, gotta go," I instead
Yeah.
just, like, pause and it's like, "We've got 2 hours, so I won't say anything, like, I'm just gonna wait." And, like, that's gonna
Yeah.
create, like, trust and, like, candid conversations and everything that is, like, naturally healing in medicine. I feel
Yeah.
like we've gone away from, because our healthcare system is incentive based. It needs to make money, it needs to profit, and so do insurance companies. And so instead, you have a system that requires doctors or midwives to see a certain amount of people a day, but maxing out
Yeah.
the amount of people you see a day isn't honoring those people. And, like, that's my own
No.
separate soapbox. But yeah, an hour and 50
Yeah.
minutes, girl. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds
And like, even
amazing.
if it was 30 minutes, but if it was 30 minutes every week for 2 months,
Yeah,
that also like,
exactly.
that's also
Exactly. 'Cause
quite a lot.
that's what I was gonna ask, because that's something that you said too, is that, even in Finland, even though they're not in person, or sorry, not at your home, the visits are frequent, like, it's, like,
Yeah.
weekly in the first
Yeah,
couple
yeah.
weeks.
At the beginning, I think, well, I
Yeah,
now don't know exactly because I
yeah,
didn't experience the system here
yeah,
myself. So I
yeah,
can only just talk about what I kind of have heard.
yeah,
So I think the system is similar to this idea of having a midwife who comes to you, but instead of coming to you, you go to this midwife center.
yeah,
And then there's like everything has been, and I think this is the main thing. Everything has been thought through beforehand for you.
mm,
So someone's thought about like, okay, at this point it's good if they see the midwife like twice a week, and they need to check XYZ, with the baby and with the mother. Then there's a week break and this happens, and there's a 3 weeks break and this happens, because I think this is one thing you don't want to have to think about as a mother with a
yeah,
newborn baby. It's like, what are the things I have to worry about? And like, like someone's actually thought that through for you. And you just go like,
mhm,
okay, next
I'm just gonna
appointment is
show
next
up.
week, Tuesday, just show up. And they're going to be asking all these questions and measuring everything and checking everything and
Yeah,
asking all the right questions. And you're like, okay, so I think whatever you can do to make this time for the mother a little bit less stressful, the
yeah,
better, because it is already so stressful by design,
yeah, yeah,
right? It's just like you're there not really knowing what to do. And most women
yeah,
struggle with the breastfeeding, or most women struggle with the babies and nights. And, like there's just so many things that are like just profoundly very challenging.
yeah,
So, yeah, however, the system could take away some of that pressure and the
that
stress
burden.
away, the better.
Agreed. I mean, so many of the conversations I've had on the podcast so far, and as I said, you yourself were one of the many inspirations for this podcast, and that my ideal is having conversations like this to either help, like, advocate for change, but also, like, find out find ideas that might
Mm,
synergistically support people in the postpartum period better. And like you said, and I think the themes that come up most consistently is like whatever you can do to take things off that person's plate, whatever you can do to help minimize the cumbersome burdens on their shoulder, because it's already overwhelming enough as is. Like there's a
yeah.
human that is like a very demanding tiny human that's asking a lot of them. So whatever we can do to help that person so they don't feel nearly as overwhelmed is ideal. And
And I
thinking
have to
about
say, like,
go
I
ahead.
maybe ask you a question. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, no, go for it. No, please, please, please.
I was gonna say that because I do have, in addition to you, a few other American friends, and I remember when I still had my first newborn, so Viola, and I was really struggling. And imagine now I had all this privilege already, like I had
Mhm.
all the support you could imagine,
Yeah,
relatively easygoing baby,
yeah,
and I had no pressure of going back to work. Right, like
yeah,
I was able to take a full year off from work.
yeah, yeah,
Um, And I was thinking at that point, I was thinking about my friends in America, where I was like, so okay, if you're exhausted as I am when your baby is 3 weeks old, and now am I now supposed to go back to work? I couldn't imagine
I
going back
know,
to work. I
I
think that
know.
idea, I was like, you would have had to give me a lot of drugs, coffee, and I don't know, like I don't know what, for me to be able to actually work. I feel like I was
Yeah,
so destroyed in so many different levels.
yeah,
Like I would have been a horrible employee. How
yeah,
would me not be able to do anything? I'm like, that really I find unbelievable that some women have to go back to work so soon
mhm,
after giving birth.
mhm.
I think it's fine if you decide to, then I mean,
Yeah,
great. I mean, this is everyone's supposed to have the freedom of choice, but like
yeah,
if you cannot make that choice and it's kind of just forced on you, I
forced
think
on you.
that is horrible. And I just feel for those women
I
because
know.
I have no idea how they do it.
Oh, yeah. No, Venla, perfect segue, because another thing that rocked my world when I talked with you, and then, like, I think I honestly, like, again, mini interviewed so many of your friends at your 40th birthday, asking people about, like, their postpartum experience, is parental leave, because that's one of the
Yeah.
biggest differences between here and Germany and Finland, I think, is, like, known to be one of the better countries, is that the basic package for maternity leave in the US is 6 weeks.
Yeah.
If you have a vaginal delivery, 8 weeks if you have a C-section. For me as an OB, I can extend that disability, so it's called, like, a disability extension if, like, I deem it fit. So maybe a mom had a more complicated delivery and is having some complications, or most often it's actually with mood. So if someone has significant
Yeah.
postpartum depression, anxiety, and I'm like, "Yeah, you're not ready to go back yet. We need to get you in with a therapist," etc. But otherwise, that's me arbitrarily, me as an OB arbitrarily deciding, okay, well, I think you deserve a year off, but yeah, you are struggling, and I'm going to give you an extra month, or I'm going to give you extra 2 months, or I'm going to extra 3 months, right? And I hate that I'm the arbiter of this. I hate that I'm in this position
Yeah.
where, like, in the deepest part of my heart, the person who actually chose this profession to be a healer and a nurturer, I actually think that this is insane that I'm like gifting you an extra
Yeah.
4 weeks or extra 8 weeks. I think the bare minimum should be an entire year. And I think as our theme of our conversation, one of our the themes is acknowledging privilege, because I think you and I are both very honest about that. Is some of my friends who work in these big, amazing tech companies have a lot more privilege. We're like, oh yeah, no, I have 3 months. Oh, I have 9 months. Oh, I do have a year, which is great, which is so great. But the goal should be that the standard of care is that
Yeah.
everyone should get at least 3, 6 months, and I
Yeah.
acknowledge that there are times where that's not an option. I had a patient just the other week who was chatting with her, and it was clear to me that she had like some mild postpartum depression. And I was going to suggest to her, "Hey, I'm happy to extend your disability. You need more time." She not only, yeah, was she like about 5 weeks postpartum, but she also has three other kids at home in addition to her newborn. Like, she is a busy person,
Yeah.
plus her depression. And so I said, "Yeah, like, let's plan on extending time." She's like, "Oh no, that's not an option for me." I was like, "What?" She's like, "No, I'm going back to work next week. My fiance and I talked about it. It's not going to work for our family financially. Like, I need to go back to work." And
My gosh.
that's disheartening, right? Because that means that whatever she's getting paid out of her disability isn't nearly as much as her
Yeah.
full-time pay, and her partner had to make that difficult, real decision for them
Yeah.
to prioritize the finances over her mental health care. I even
Right.
overheard her, she's, she, like most of us or some of us, use humor in pain. I even heard her talking to someone, Holly, saying, "It's okay. I'll just go to work and I'll cry at work. It's okay." I was just like, "No, no, no." And it's
Yeah.
not even just for postpartum mood. How, your extra time postpartum for your recovery isn't just about postpartum mood. It's about
Mm.
everything. You're bonding with your baby. You're figuring out your new self. You're just recovering, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, can you tell us about, like, what the timing of parental leave is in Berlin as you know it, and in Finland, and what, like, the kind of the basic package is, if you will?
So I had to do a quick research on this because I wasn't
Yeah.
really 100% sure like
Yeah,
how
yeah.
similar they are.
Yeah.
And they're very similar actually. So Berlin and Finland are very, very similar. And I'm not gonna go this technical details about it,
No,
but
no.
I would say like typically the woman gets 3 months of maternity leave.
Mm,
Usually it starts about 1 month before the due date and then kind
mhm,
of goes until 2 months after the due date.
mhm,
And that's always full pay from
mhm,
the employer. And then usually the state or the health insurances are paying the employer then
mhm,
partially for that. So
mhm,
that's the stage where the employer has to pay a little bit, basically.
mhm.
And after that, then the parental leave starts. That's kind of in both countries roughly additionally 10 months. So there's 3 months of this, and there's roughly 10 months
Yeah,
additional parental leave that
yeah,
they can split 50-50 or whichever way they want, the
yeah,
mother and the father.
yeah,
And it's about 70% of the netto salary. In
yeah,
Germany, it's capped. So if you're making like K a year, it doesn't mean you're
yeah,
gonna get 70% of that.
yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
capped at I think it's like maximum 1,800 netto per month.
Mhm.
So it's not like, of course, then if you're making much more than that, it's you're taking a bit of a
Yeah,
pay cut there.
yeah,
And it's quite similar in Finland.
yeah,
3 months for the woman is always full pay, kind of paid by the employer, but they're given money from the state. And then the remaining 10 to 12 months, whatever, you can divide with your partner, and it's about 70% of your net income. And because it's income based, what's typically happening still, of course, in Germany and Finland is that the mothers take longer parental leaves than the
yeah.
fathers because typically the women are making less money. So it's
Which is a whole
economically,
other conversation, but
financially,
not for
yes,
today.
just saying it's not a perfect system either.
Yeah,
But that's how it's typically done. And I can see that from all of my friends in Finland, most of the fathers have taken 50% of the leave. So let's say 4 months or something. In Germany, I think more typical was like 1 or 2 months of parental leave
okay.
for the father. So just maybe out of curiosity, that's kind of like
Yeah,
something I've
yeah.
noticed. I think in the
No, it's
Nordics,
good.
it's more normal for the fathers to take a little bit longer parental leaves,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
still.
And it seems like that the 10 months is then, yeah, you have to decide it's not 10 months just for the birther. It's kind of split between you and your partner, whether you
You
do
can
50-50 or like, you know,
Yeah, the other one
like
can take
75.
the other one. So quite normal is that the woman is with the baby for a full year,
Okay.
and
And the
then
partner
maybe
can still
the
take.
partner takes the 2 months. So it's somehow like, because it's the 3 months plus, I think, additional 12 months. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
basically,
Basically,
like
it can take up to a year.
you can stay home with the baby for up to a year and a couple of months,
Yeah.
and it's somehow supported by the government.
Yeah. And would
Um,
you say that I think you alluded to that most of your friends take that.
Most of my friends take that year, but in Finland, it seems to be quite normal that the fathers take more. So the mother might go back to work when the baby's 9 months old, and then the
Okay.
father takes 5 months leave,
Yeah.
for instance, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So
A
it's
little bit
not
of a
so that the
mix
mother always stays home with the baby for one
the
full
whole time.
year. It can be that they're doing 9 months, and then the partner takes, yeah, 3 to 5 months. But I think just all in all, it's quite typical that this one full year is that you
Yeah.
stay in home. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, in Finland, a lot of my friends are doing 1.5 years. They
Yeah.
feel like they don't want to put the baby in the daycare before so because in addition to that, you can also just
Yeah.
take this kind of like extra paid time with the baby. So it's no longer
Mhm.
70% of your net income or anything, but it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know, 300 euros a month. So very little money,
Yeah.
but it's still like possible. So if you wanted to stay at home with the baby for until like 4 years old, you could get like 300 euros a month to do that. Which
But
is
that's so
like,
different, right? That's like but it's letting you opt in. I think you said this
yeah,
before, right? Where like there's systems where you're forced into something and you're forced into nope, 6 weeks you're back to work. And
yeah,
versus, hey, financially my family's in a place where it's okay for me to have a significant like a pay cut. I'll take the 300 euro a month stipend just so I can stay at home with my kids longer until we feel ready for them to go to daycare, whatever it might
exactly.
be. Like that opt-in, that like giving families agency, I think shows that it's a system that truly supports families. Like
Yeah,
this is a controversial statement, but sometimes I question how much the US truly appreciates like family dynamics and parental leave and how important it is um, to to bolster that as much as possible to add to the overall success that's foundational to the people in those families. Like we're not even
yeah,
gonna get into like children development, let alone contributions to the workforce and how that affects the economy, right? I think all of these things have like a
mm,
true downstream effect. And so when you invest in like what I think is a big piece of a country's foundation, I think you'll see positive things trickling forward. How
mm.
much time did you take after Viola and after Villy?
I took one full year for each.
Yeah, yeah. And you look great. So there you go, guys. That's the answer. No, I kid, but
I'm
no, I
still
mean,
recording. I can, bro.
I know. I'm just
Physically.
being facetious physically, but yeah, just acknowledging though that the ultimate comparison. Let me know if you and Ate are open for it. The ultimate comparison is having you have your third baby here in the U.S. and then have you come back and talking to us.
I don't
But
think we could afford it, honey.
yeah, I know. Well, how
I
about
don't
this?
think we could afford it.
You'd live with us, and then I would give you like a doctor friend discount somehow. But I
I
would just
might
be
be
your
like
OB doc.
freaking out if I had a C-section. I was like, yeah,
I know.
there's a $10,000
Oh
bill. And I was
yeah.
like, what?
Yeah, yeah, I know. No, real talk. It is very expensive, but I mean, I think having you share your insights about your pregnancy and postpartum experience in Germany and kind of the broader context of parental leave in Germany and Finland is still eye opening. Like right, like the best
Mhm.
studies are done with head to head comparisons. So of course I can't make you a subject and make you have a pregnancy here. But I think say for me as objectively as an OB practicing here, I know that one of the biggest stark contrasts to me are having your own like personalized midwife who especially sees you in person postpartum, let alone like the frequency of visits, and the extent of parental leave. I think that
Yeah.
we have for one of a very developed country that that has one of the highest levels of GDP.
Yeah.
There's this like famous graph that shows like where we are financially as as a country versus our like maternal mortality rates. And like if you make that
Yeah.
graph show Black maternal mortality rates were even
Yeah.
worse, right? And so a lot of that speaks to how we invest in pregnant people and their
Yeah.
families. And I think conversations like this um, validate my sense that we can do so much better. We can do so
Yeah.
much better. And I don't know if it starts with conversations like this, which makes someone listening get like like aggravated and inspired enough to like write their congresswoman or congressman
Yeah.
to
No.
like, start enacting change. Who knows? But I still remember how pivotal all those conversations I had with you up until this point were in terms of like making me mad enough to like turn my frustration into something
Yeah.
productive, which is the podcast and the conversation we're having now.
Yeah, and I mean, and I always remember when I was talking to my one of my American friends who was planning to have a child, and then she told me that yes, we have calculated that we can afford to have one child, and they were living like near San Francisco, no, near Los
Mhm.
Angeles, and in a really nice apartment, and they were both like
Yeah.
freelancers, but like doing really nice projects. And I was
Yeah.
like, if you can afford to have one child, like, how the hell is anyone going to be able to afford to have more children? And to add to that, I have never heard any one of my friends in Europe saying, I can't afford to have children. Like, no
Yeah.
one would ever say that because it's not
Yeah.
a question of money. So,
Yeah.
like, no one in Germany, no one even in south of Europe, like nobody in Finland. It's a question of whether you want children or whether your partner wants children and how many
Yeah.
children you want and whether you have the mental capacity and okay, a little bit of maybe the financial in the sense that you might want to take that time off from work and it's not going to be full pay, but like it's really not a financial decision at all. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that really somehow for me shows the biggest difference between the systems is like, do you have to think about how much having a child will cost you? Or do you have to think about whether you'll have the mental capacity
Yeah.
and etc. to do that? So I
Yeah.
think it's so that's I think that's a shocking difference for me.
Yeah. No, that's so telling. And I think before we started this episode, because Ven and I are actually real friends, we were chuckling about how my husband is still quite ambivalent about having kids, and part of his ambivalence is the finances of recognizing that whether you start thinking about like postpartum care and support, because that midwife isn't going to come to us. It's not built into our insurance package,
Yeah.
so we're probably going to have to pay extra for like a night nurse or postpartum doula, alone how much daycare costs. We didn't even get into
Oh yeah.
free covered childcare in Germany, which is the other thing we had talked about, in person, but, talking about daycare, and then once they get to school, like, public schools in the US aren't good enough, so we have to go send them to private school, which is, like, $60,000 a year per kid, right? It's
Jesus.
just the dollar signs add up, and so I feel my heart racing, but
Yeah.
you realize, like,
It
it
sounds stressful.
changes. It is stressful, and it changes someone's experience of wanting to start a family. There's different approaches to starting family, and that there's. I don't want to minimize the complexity of this conversation. That we in an hour won't like delve deeply into all different perspectives, but acknowledging that there are other people who don't have financial means and still make it work. Right? Like there's so many different ways,
Yeah.
but the dollar signs in the U.S. There's a big difference between like multiple dollar signs versus the zero, the free that the 20 euro you paid
Yeah.
because you opted in for a luxury family suite.
Yeah.
It's very different. And I
Yeah.
think that, yeah, I think that we have to just continue to be like boldly honest with ourselves that um we can continue to do better support birthers and that postpartum experience, and having challenging conversations like this will hopefully push us.
Yeah. Also maybe with the employers, like I don't know what the attitude is like in the job market and among the
Mm,
employers, or maybe it's like differs between whether working for the public sector or what. But like I think generally like this idea that people can take time off to stay at home with the kids and it's
yeah.
not like gonna have a huge impact on their careers. That's also
Mm-hmm.
something like I had to like really teach myself just to give this perspective of like if I take one full year off, like what will
Yeah.
happen to my career? But then I'm like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
now 40. I got like at least 25 years ahead of me of still like
Yeah.
work life. So taking 1 year off here and a 1 year off there, like will not make a massive difference. So I think it's about your own perspective, but also about like how does the society see that? Like, is the society expecting you to like take the 2 months off? are the employers expecting you to like come back as soon as you can walk? Or is it more
Mhm.
like, oh, no, it's actually really valued and appreciated that you do take the time to stay home with the
Mhm.
baby? So I think those are also the kind of like conversations that should be taking place, like in all of the
Yeah.
companies where they see, okay,
Yeah.
how can we support?
Yeah. You're
Because
speaking
the
to
countries
a
need,
yeah, you're speaking to a culture shift where it's not just like, of course my mind is going to like changing laws and insurance coverage because
yeah,
that's how my type A brain works, but it's mainly actually culture shift as well. It's like if someone can feel, and I'll say like if a woman can feel like she can take time off of work without feeling like there was judgment from her employer or feeling like she was going to be behind.
yeah,
And if anything, like, encourage, like, "Hey, like, we know you're only gonna take 3 months off, but why don't you maximize it? Take the whole 6 months or take the whole 9 months." Like,
yeah,
right? If the
yeah,
language changed,
yeah,
that would make a huge difference. There's this I haven't read it yet, but there's this, new book that's come out called Power of Pause, which I recommend that you read it, but one of my former guests had recommended it to me too, but it's basically shifting the framework of, like, moms who take time off of or choose to take time off, after having a kid, and really reframing how we're referring to it as, like, not a stay-at-home mom or, someone who's, like, taking a break in their career, but, like, reinforcing the power that it is to, like, have choice and agency, like, "Hey, no, I'm taking this time for me. I will choose
yeah,
if and when I come back to work, and when I come back to work, I'm gonna be that much of a stronger person who's able to multitask
yeah,
better." All these skills that you actually hone in
yes.
on when you are taking care of kids. It's a very skillful job.
It is. I mean, I fully agree. And I think it's also like it's difficult to explain how valuable it is to take a year off from this like what do you call it? Like a hamster wheel.
It has to be yeah,
Where you're
yeah,
like
yeah.
super busy with your work and your life and then all of a sudden you take a year off from that life, then you're super busy
Yeah.
sure with the baby, but it's different kind of busyness. And then you
Yeah.
have actually time to think about, well, how was I feeling at work? How would I actually now think about my work? Do I actually want something different? What would that be?
Yeah.
And there's also all of a sudden this like mental space there for you to reflect on these
Mm.
things. You might be tired and busy with changing diapers, but there's like kind of like a little bit more mental space there. And I
Mm.
think that really is beneficial for a lot of people to like, if you're privileged enough to be able to then go like, no, I'm going to choose my job. I'm going to change my jobs because this one sucked. And I'm realizing that now. And I want to do like, this one. And I'm going to
Yeah.
start already, I don't know, networking so I can actually change the direction of my career. So I think
Yeah.
that's also really beneficial. It's like taking holidays. You need to take holidays. So you
Yeah.
have time to reset and think about like, hey, what is actually going on? And, what do I
Yeah.
want from going forward?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the title of the book, and I have no credit for coming up with this title, but, like, yeah, The Power of the Pause. I actually appreciate you reflecting that because I think so much as, like, the physical emotional recovery from postpartum period, probably because it's an OB, that's what pulls me in. That's when people are reaching out to me because of when they're
Yeah.
going through really hard times in that period. But there is something really powerful about creating space just for you to, like, reflect on anything and have the time and space to be introspective when we normally can't. Like, normally can't pause and reflect on our the quality of our job or the happiness that we have with our
Yeah.
profession when we're just in the thickness of it. So thank you,
Yeah.
Venla, for reminding me of the power of the pause.
Yeah.
I've taken enough of your time. I think we're getting closer to bedtime for you in Finland, although your face looks aglow. You still look great, girl. But
Thank you. So do you.
thank you. Um, any final words that you want to share or sage words of like wisdom or encouragement for any moms listening?
Mm. Maybe I would like sum up a little bit of like my experience with Germany and Finland and what I hope every woman would be able to have. So
Mm,
excellent support during the pregnancy, free labor. We don't have to
yeah.
pay and worry about how much it's going to cost you. Um, Lots of care after giving birth, also in the form of like postnatal yoga or whatever, like actually helping the mother also get back to shape. And I thought that was
Hmm.
excellent in Germany. And then going to this kind of like being able to take the time off as a parent, like a full year even, then returning to work life that understands that you have children. So they're also supportive of you, maybe working a little bit shorter days and, are just anyway, just welcoming you back with open arms after being gone for a year. free daycare or like very, very cheap daycare so you can actually afford to go back to work. I can't even imagine if I had to pay the same amount of money for the daycare as I earn. That would not feel so very like
Yeah.
supportive or
Yeah.
motivating. I think that, and then to the situation where I'm in right now, where my oldest one is about to start the school. So excellent public schools that are like 200 meters away from where we live, where she can walk
Mm.
home from school on her own already when she's 7, and just this kind of like, I don't know. I think that is also this title of Finnish Happiness Ambassador, because I do think
Yeah.
there's a lot of things I could have talked about, like how things are in Finland. So I do recommend you moving to Finland, actually.
I know. Real talk. So I appreciate the Venla wish list, and I think those are all, as someone who's ambitious and like will always hope for change and will always be. I'm an internal optimist, and that Venla wish list of what you hope for all women. I think it's good for us all to have on top of mind and hope for that for ourselves. I don't know if this podcast is international yet, but maybe after we post this, it will be. Wherever you're listening in any country, any city, like it's fair to want that for yourself, and either using the resources that you can to create that village, if you
But I
will.
have
Go
one
ahead.
wisdom that would be easier to make happen than that one, because that is maybe a little
Yes.
bit difficult to change the system. I think remembering that if you take care of yourself is like taking care of the baby,
Mm,
like really prioritizing your own well-being
hmm.
as a mother is incredibly important, and important to remember throughout the whole thing. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's not just about the baby, it's about you. If you're doing
Yeah.
well, the baby will be doing well. And
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of like, at least that requires no systemic change for that to
Yeah.
happen. And I think it's easy for the mothers to lose themselves and their own well-being when they're just focusing on the baby. So at least that they can do. And then, yeah,
Yeah.
trying to get support from wherever possible, because it's not really something you're meant to do on your own. I think that's
Yeah.
the other thing. It's a very lonely and exhausting ride to do on your own.
It
So
is. Yeah, leave the systemic change to me
yeah,
and
exactly.
other advocates in the maternal health space. We're going to keep on fighting the good fight and take it to Congress, if you will. But I think remembering to prioritize yourself as an individual. I say this to my patients all the time. You can't care for your loved ones unless you care for yourself, because you have nothing
Yeah.
to pay for it. You have nothing to give. And you're right. I should move to Finland. Like
At
throughout this
least
whole
then it won't be a
conversation.
financial decision, about having a child, or
I know.
you can do it for free.
Throughout this whole conversation, there's a very selfish part of me that's like, okay, so like that's an option, and all right. I
Yeah.
think the real talk, as you know, Venla, because you were friends with my husband first, he does not like your winters. So
No.
I couldn't
But
manage
hey,
a
I have a
Finnish
tip for
winter.
that.
Okay.
So what we are planning to do is that we're
Yes.
planning to spend like 2 months every winter in south of Spain, where they also have Finnish school, so that the kids can go there for a couple of months.
She's
Because it's
solved
true,
my problem.
the winters are a little bit shitty here. I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the happiest country in the world, but really does also have
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
dark
Those
weather most of
days
the time.
exactly. Those days are very, very short. So little sunlight. Well,
Yeah.
you solved it. Okay, so I'm gonna live in Finland, have my babies, but we'll summer in wintertime, we'll go to Spain
Yeah.
together.
Imagine.
Okay.
I mean, that's
Then I'm
the
gonna
best parts of Europe. Like they can
yeah,
go and live anywhere for a little bit, and the
yeah,
school system allows you to take your child out of a couple of months, even if you homeschool them for a couple of months
yeah,
and then bring them back there. Everything is very
yeah,
flexible here
yeah.
and supportive.
Amazing. I'm
Everything
gonna
is
go
supportive. So please,
yeah.
let's start
I'm
planning
gonna
your
go
move.
I'm gonna go downstairs, talk to my husband, and say, it's a done deal. I'm taking out my IUD. We're moving to Finland. We'll birth there. We're gonna be good.
Yeah.
But real talk, Fenla, I can
Thank you,
talk you,
Anna.
as you know, I can talk to you like literally for hours. But this is you, or your own personal experience is your wealth of knowledge. And I know that we didn't touch on everything, but I think that for me at least, I'm walking away from this conversation still very invigorated and hopeful for the ways that the country that I'm working
Yeah.
in can learn from the countries that you birthed and are caring for your family in. And I know there's probably a lot of moms who walked away from this conversation feeling inspired
I
as
hope
well. So
so. Do
thank
let me
you,
know if there are any
Venla.
questions at any point.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you so much. It was a pleasure.
Oh my gosh, pleasure's all mine. I love you dearly. Send
I
my
love you
love
too.
to the whole crew, Viola, Vili, and Atte.
Nice pronunciation there.
I know. I'm working on it. Anyway, but seriously, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate
Thank you, darling.
Thank you very much for listening to The Golden Hour, the podcast community where moms and moms-to-be can hear stories from other mothers and learn from top experts in pregnancy and postpartum care. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share with your friends so we can reach more people like you. You can visit goldenhour.fm for more information, resources, and all other episodes. If you have any requests, questions, or suggestions for future episodes, please email me at hello@goldenhour.fm or leave us a comment at goldenhour.fm on Instagram. Looking forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until then, stay golden.